Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being with us this morning on Monday, May 16th. I am back in for Todd Rich, who will be out probably the remainder of this week. We've got Brian Caprice, as always, to make great calls on the markets here. Not a ton happening with the VIX relatively flat, but there's been some uh, key decisions that will be coming up. We'll cover all those, and we'll be covering some key points and levels in the markets. Before we begin, though, real quick, just want to remind everybody that trading does involve risk. It's not appropriate for all people at all times. Always make sure you're using risk capital. Risk capital is not grocery money or things earmarked for mortgages. It is just what it sounds like. Money that if you lost today would not impact your lifestyle. Make sure that you're making your own trading decisions. We're going to be talking about the markets. Brian, as you know, for a lot of our longtime followers, and if you're new to us, Brian picks out some key levels. This is for educational purposes and is not meant to be a trade recommendation. And with that, Brian, I will, if I can get over to your chart there, bring it up. And
Yeah,
good
so
morning, Brian. Sorry, I totally forgot to say
I
good
know
morning to you.
it's Monday, it's
It
Monday.
is.
It just stopped raining here for like the first time in like 4 days. Yeah, it's one of those like it's like yeah, if you had to draw a picture of what does a dreary Monday look like, this would be it. Anyway, so we've already gotten a little bit of news this morning. Overall, there's not. It's a typical kind of newsless Monday morning. The largest mover right now in the currency market is the dollar Swiss. Last week we mentioned really there's no reason to get short this pair when it pulls back, keep going long, and it's another green day. But it's only up 33 pips in the last 24 hours. Even things like high flyers from last week, the dollar yen, it's only moved 5 pips. Dollar CAD 7, 11 for Aussie. The pound yen, one of the high flyers, 28 pips. So again, bringing a little pound strength in, but a little weakness versus the euro. So it's really rather kind of a tame morning.
Yeah.
We did have some data a little while ago, the Empire State Manufacturing. This is an interesting piece of data. Now, the markets haven't really reacted to it yet, but it's more of a retail trader reading. The forecast was supposed to be 15, which is not great, but it's a positive number. The actual came in at a negative number. Now, Empire State Manufacturing Index has been kind of getting beat up a bit. It kind of has been beat up. This is not necessarily beat up. This is bad. This shows a worsening conditions inside of the manufacturing industry. And again, we know that there's been some issues there. Again, people haven't stopped yet, but a lot of times the manufacturing is kind of the front runner for what we're going to see with retail sales. They have their pulse on, on the consumer. Again, there's no need in, the goal in retail is not to have a ton of supply. When you see manufacturing cutting back because of worsening conditions, they're expecting everything else to kind of slow down. So, yeah, negative 11.6 is not. I mean, even if it was just an 11.6, that would be bad. But a minus 11.6, not necessarily the great. And again, you can see it's the above indicates improving conditions, below indicates worsening conditions.
So this would be worse, is what you're saying.
Oh yeah, this is a bad one.
I mean,
And
a
again,
26-point miss.
Yeah, it's considered a medium impact based news, but because there's really nothing else in there today, this is kind of a big deal. Again, we're going to see the different kind of headlines coming across, but this is actually true economic data. This is not forecasting. This is not anything else. This is true economic data that we need to kind of respect. So in reality, this should lead us to kind of a more of a negative morning. We'll see how they kind of take it. Now, after that, we do have some monetary policy report hearings. Hearings are always interesting because there's questions asked and they don't always have all the answers ahead of time. At 10.15 for the pound. So, with lack of any real major movement, the pound is probably going to be a big mover this week. So again, you have the pound dollar, the euro pound, and the pound yen are all major players. The reason why this is a big one is Wednesday, actually, this week, we have the CPI, which again is the number one kind of focus on release right now because inflation is so bad. The year over year for the pound is supposed to come in as a 9.1%. The mandate is 2%. This is like almost 5 times higher, right, than what the actual mandate is. Remember, we're 5 months in, almost 6 months in to a raise every single meeting for them. There's going to be some questions answered. We're already seeing a contraction in their GDP. They're already basically started kind of a recession at a point at this. And again, inflation is still rising. Okay, so this is kind of a big deal, but leading to today, could we get some big headlines? Yeah, we could. We could have some major movement in the pound. Really kind of how are you going to control things? That could be kind of a really, again, some nice potential. And the fact that it's really, really slow could be, some good buying opportunities out there. And then we have the same thing tonight with the Aussie. again, we know the Aussie has been showing even better data. You guys know how much I love the nighttime Aussie releases out there. You don't have the U.S. trader influence into it. If we see dollar strength kind of roll back in, which right now we're seeing a little bit, if we have dollar strength roll in today, that could lead us to a potentially long opportunity tonight with the Aussie dollar and Aussie yen. So those could be nice, as well as could be some type of week long based trade. But I think the pound, again, we've talked about week long based trades. There are multiple Nadex products that have basically week long durations. We always talk about kind of how to set those up in the beginning of the week. This is kind of where it is. It's not really got a lot of movement thus far. We get any type of a pullback again. U.S. trader comes in, dollar strength comes in. That could be the opportunity to get one of these week-long positions. And again, if you like whipsaw risk or not, again, that's where we'd have that debate between knockouts and call spreads. So again, do have some pretty interesting options there. Tomorrow morning, we do have Bullard speaking tomorrow morning, and he's speaking at a virtual conference hosted by the Energy Infrastructure Council. Remember, a lot of the inflation, as we've heard, although it's now spread into everything, they love to say it's oil, it's oil, it's oil. It's oil. He's speaking again to the Energy Infrastructure Council. So could be some interesting market movement tomorrow morning. Remember, he is the most hawkish, and again, he's the let's raise interest rates, let's raise interest rates. And then we have retail sales numbers coming in again. Retail sales numbers, although core is much, much lower, the actual retail sales number up top is higher. And again, this kind of, you may say, well, wait a second, manufacturing. Yeah, this is to confirm that if people are still spending. Now, there was a couple articles I did read this weekend talking about how stores are now starting to see buying habits changing. That's kind of the first step to things really turning around. When supermarkets are saying we're starting to see habits changing, that's how you know it's making a difference. I know this weekend I actually filled up last night, and I had to get some gas last night. Some interesting prices at the pump. I mean, in Maryland, I think our tax holiday's over. We're at $4.44 a gallon here at like the best station. Summer gas has not quite kicked in yet. It's just starting to filter in now. Summer gas, if you didn't know, there's the extra taxes. It's a different mixture, so there's like extra taxes on it or something that get thrown in. That's starting to kick in. And then this morning they talked about wholesale gas prices are the highest they've been in like 10 years. A guy was saying that we haven't even seen the worst. It's about to go even higher right now. They're talking about jet fuel is up to $300 a barrel, which is like unheard of. So diesel, $6 a gallon. I couldn't believe that. I was like, oh my God, really? $6 a gallon?
Think about how many things are moved by diesel.
Yes.
And what the cost is.
Trucks. Yep. Transportation. Yep.
It's absolutely. I don't want to be the one. Hey, the sky is falling, but this is bad. Like this is a dire situation when you think about the cost of moving goods.
Yeah, I mean, and it's everything. And, going into the summer, again, gas prices go up in the summer typically because, again, the mixture is slightly different. But, now that it has been creeping higher, let's go across and look at a CL chart. China, we've heard news this weekend, China's starting to lift their lockdowns. Now, their lockdowns were different than the U.S. Theirs are not like a ready, okay, blow the whistle, everybody go type scenario. But remember, their lockdowns, they had some really bad data that came in last night. It was down, I think we said, 11%?
11%.
Yeah, 11.1% is what the retail sales were down. The lockdowns are different. It's a don't leave your house order. United States, we were told, hey, don't see other people. You can't get together in groups or we'll kind of slap you on the wrist and point fingers at you. In China, in their environment, it's different. You get caught leaving your house, you're going to jail. It's different. So they didn't do it there. Their lockdown was expected. We knew this data was there. And that's why, the OPEC said basically, like, listen, demand is low. China's locked down. When they start coming online, we're lowering our forecast because of them. With that said, we're back up here at $110, driving higher. And again, overnight, we touched up to $111.50. Why this is scary is if you guys remember last week, we had a 9 million barrel miss. We had a surplus of 8.5 million barrels and prices continuing to rise. And again, with wholesale gasoline prices being the highest they've been in like 10 years. Yeah. CNBC was actually talking this morning with everything coming online, with China basically, bringing their production back online. It said, could we see $150 a barrel gas this summer? And the guy was like, yeah, we potentially could because we've retired so many plants because it was so bad. But, it's an interesting scenario. So we talk about week-long base trades. It is scary. We are at the top. We've punched through this level multiple times. 112 is here. Could we, I don't know, could we get up to 120 by the end of the week? Maybe. maybe. I mean, we had a huge surplus last week and not really much pullback. What happens if it's the opposite side? What if we have a down draw of -8 this week? You know, there's every reason why this jumps. So yeah, so that's kind of one of the pieces of it. Overall, the VIX is kind of where we were. With the VIX being exactly where we were Friday, not many major headlines. I guess there was an offensive in Yugoslavia, and again, 2 more European countries basically said, "That's it, we're joining NATO," which is fine. I mean, you know, more countries in NATO, it doesn't make it really any different. It's going to upset Russia, but there's not much they can do about it. At this point, I guess the only other major headline out of Russia this week is McDonald's says that they are going to sell. They started the process of selling all their restaurants there. They were already closed down, and Russia already said, if you close them down, we're just going to take them over and it'll be a state-run corporation. McDonald's is selling them, but okay, you're going to sell them, but if I don't know who would buy them. Maybe the Russian government for pennies on the dollar, or maybe Russia just takes them over. We'll see. Interesting scenario. So I think right now Burger King is the only chain that's still there, basically because I guess it's franchised and they don't have to. The company that owns it is like, we're not shutting them down. We're the only one left. We've won the war. So yeah, just Burger King, and then we joked about McPutin, but maybe it's McPutin. But anyway, the VIX is a little bit lower. It's up 0.8, but barely. It's about to come down again. The indices have been bouncing back and forth, and I'd say they're pretty choppy. Really, we don't have any major selling coming in up until at least the ES and 40.42, just a little bit higher. And again, do we climb up that high, turn green, and everyone's like, oh, that's it, sell? I think important levels to watch out for on this one. There is the Globex high right here. Again, why I keep mentioning the Globex high is because it's a very kind of common retail trader strategy. They'll mark the Globex high and low, and when it breaks through those, people are using that as oh, that's it. Now we've gone through. We're officially changing in trend, but it's a very, very easy trap. And you can see how it's bottled off, and it is right there, right at that 40.42. So as people try to go long there, we already know we have confirmed selling. So watch that level as a potential area to sell from. NQ has been definitely more whipsawy. Last week we talked about the 12,494. If I extend this across, you can see we didn't hit there, but we did end up hitting the 1294. The little bit, the kind of larger of the areas. We mentioned an aggressive and a conservative. The aggressive did get hit in the overnight, came back down, and then has kind of stabilized itself. If you run from fibs from low to high, hold on. If we go from low to high, you can see it was kind of fluctuating back and forth, and we did have some buyers. But those buyers, it has touched that same level now about 3 times. So we know that after it's been hit 3 times, it is tend to be considered weaker. We can remove that. I would say that the next area, and this is an interesting spot too. Let's remove this. I don't need this anymore. From that rollover, that kind of push back again, if we get short from this level, and let me mark this off real quick, put a price label in there. If we get a break of 12,225, you can see that we do have a bit of a racetrack, and we're down to 12,100. Now, I think 12,100 is a very important number. Reason why is we had some basing, we had a pushback, and then we had a big explosion on Friday, right, from that price. That's typically a telltale sign there's some buyers sitting there. It also just happens to be from low to high overnight. That also happens to be the 50% retracement level in fibs. For some of you out there that prefer fibs versus supply and demand. Both those are kind of put on top of each other. So it is a little bit, farther down, but if we do get a push down, question is, could we maybe go up, grab this at 1030, roll back down again, and then get an end of the day rally? Potentially, we could. But I think those are the 3 numbers to watch out for. Again, is that 12,495, the 12,225, and the 12,102. YM basically flat. It's kind of got the same piece. You could run fibs in the same exact direction. And again, now the 50% is not anywhere. Not as worried about that one. I would say there's some selling in there right there. We've kind of bounced off of it already. So again, could we take this one negative from the open? Probably. Again, that's from the old one. Actually, don't need that anymore. We'll pull that off now. Yeah, I'd say this one is more kind of range bound. Again, that manufacturing number is not good for the YM. If this one turns and rolls down right now, I really wouldn't be surprised whatsoever. And again, that would keep it kind of an inside day, and that's what your 1 to 3 looks like. Totally fine with that. Buyers that come into a little bit lower, that would be there. Russell also very, very high up. We talked about a big push forward. It's also up at 11. And again, if we readjust this to go over the weekend, I'll remove that one. Let's throw this in. There's our new levels. Yeah, kind of the same spot. We don't need that. Let's run some fibs on this real quick. Up. Yeah, look at that right there. That's what I was wondering, if we're going to have that same type of overlap. And right there for the Russell. Kind of the same idea. We've been through this level 3 times now. If we get that breakdown, 1754 looks like it's an area where we've had a nice push off of it. We do have confirmed sellers up top. Again, we've kind of pulled back to that 23.6, but it's hit it 2-3 times at this point, so it should be good for a break. So I'd say it looks like right now in the indices, we got 2 of them looking to go down. We have 2 that could go up a little bit more before they roll. More or less, they're all down right now, but just by 0.2 and less. So not really anything, that we need to kind of go crazy about. Overall, with everything else, I think gold, again, gold touched below 1,800. We got down to 1,785. I would say, we mentioned it last week, same thinking. Every time it pulls back, it's a great selling opportunity in gold. I think this one continues to deteriorate today. Silver has rallied back. We did break through. I got to 2040 last week, and now we've pulled back up to 21. Kind of the same thing. I think we look for selling opportunities here. Look for some basing and new shorts. This will come in later in the week as far as where we go with it. The All I mentioned tonight could be a nice little trade. We pulled through. Let me pull these off. The 68.36 were levels we talked about last week, larger time frame levels. We rolled off of it. Right now, though, let's see. Let's run this all the way down. Yeah, there's a 23 there. The 50 actually is an interesting spot. Can I pull this up? Yeah. Let's pull this over. So right now, at least in the Aussie, there's an area of selling that's occurring right here. We've already hit it again, but it's pushed it deep. I don't know that I would actually take something short off of this one again, just because it has pushed it literally to the brink, and then we kind of got a racetrack scenario. If this continues to ride up, or we maintain somewhere in here, tonight this may actually be a shorting opportunity. Aussie yen is also kind of in a similar scenario. Again, the 50 I'm not worried about. Let me see. Let me pull this and run from top down. Yeah, right there. Look at that. That's what I was wondering. If this basing level right here also happened to be at the 50 or 61, and it is. It's at the 61. So right now, again, they're close. I think both the Aussie pairs tonight are going to be in play, and we got to see where we end up. Really, let's pull this and just bring this down here. Looks like we got kind of 2 areas bracketed in. So could be some interesting work. Again, 90.06 is probably our top section. I wouldn't be surprised if it hits this and then rolls because of the yen today as a proxy. But again, lower level, and then we'll see what we get for tonight. So cryptos down again. They're Bitcoin's back at 30. But again, it's down 4. Ethereum down 4.6. Dogecoin still holding down here at 8 cents, down a bit. And then again, TLC has resumed and gapped down. It came right off that 61.8. We bounced off of it twice on Friday. It is pushing lower. Or Thursday actually. I wouldn't expect this one. I would expect it to continue to go lower, and maybe even potentially see the indices go green again, just as we continue back on that kind of basically risk on, because there's really not a whole lot out there right now that is telling me to be risk off. So that's it. That's all I got for today. Like I said, slow Monday. We kind of covered a lot, but again, currency market is just like, we're not really sure what to do with it right now. So
I think that's the case for a lot of people right now. Not sure what to do. Do I plan my summer trip, and can I afford it by the time it comes around? So I want to say thank you, Brian. Thank you all for joining us. Do want to remind everybody, Brian called out some key levels here. Definitely watch out for those. Please don't take them as a trading recommendation. Make your own decisions. We're here for educational purposes, and always remember, trading does involve risk. Tomorrow, before we hop on the air, we do have the retail sales figures, so could be an active morning, and as we start to see how this week shakes out. See you all tomorrow. Thank you again, Brian.